quick introduction on ourselves. I know we've been able to interact with some of you, but we definitely want to give a little bit background on ourselves. From there, Max will take us a little bit into just understanding data analytics roles, and then he'll get into the nitty-gritty of searching in the database itself. And then I'll share some best practices at the end as far as technologist engagement. And again, we should have some time at the end for some questions. I do want to also preface this with a lot of things that we share here. Of course, you're not going to see us doing this on Dice specifically, but these are definitely tools and resources that you can use in any of your sourcing techniques that you use. So with that, just a quick introduction on myself. I am Juan Maxinas. I am the Regional Vice President of Sales here at Dice. I work very closely with our account managers. And then Max, I'll turn it over to you.
My name is Max. I head up our commercial and direct client success team. So I'm sure many of you have worked with some of our team members, and just happy to go through this and help you find hopefully some good data analysts down the pipeline. Awesome. Okay, everybody. As part of our agenda, thank you, Juan. Today we are going to go through data analysts, data analytics. We're going to discover a little bit about what it is, who we're looking for, and then we're going to go into the database itself. So let's just start off with what is data analytics, right? And we're taking this from a super high level. And so, each role that you're probably working on is probably very specialized to what you actually need. And so you need to be very specific. But today we're just going to try and understand a little bit and then do some practice in the Boolean, practice in the database to see what you can do to take out and actually apply to your day-to-day. So everybody, data analytics, there's a lot to it. And this chart does not by any means do anything justice. There's kind of two paths really to data analytics, more or less. There's going to be, for data analysts, a lot of it is digesting, analyzing, and then doing visualization of data to various degrees. And if all of us kind of take this idea of data, right, it's kind of stuff our computers use, and just data points, it's basically information that is digitized. Most of us have probably used Excel, right? And that's kind of step one for most data analysts is you dip your toes in with Excel. Then after that, it gets significantly more steep. And that's really probably why you're on this call. That's probably why you're like, okay, well, how do I search for those key skills like R or SQL, right? Well, after Excel, right, which is just a very basic data processing program, right, there's a lot of other things you need to know about, right? There's statistics. Then after that, I'm sure you've probably heard of SQL. R is another programming language for data. Then there's also certain terms and processes like data hygiene, right? If anybody has ever sent you a really ugly Excel where none of the data makes sense, it's ugly, the names are all in the wrong spot, half of them are here, there's commas sometimes in the middle. Anything like that, right? That's all about then cleaning the data and making sure it does align. But it, of course, like for a data analyst, actually that's a very simple answer for data hygiene. It actually goes way beyond that. It's like about helping pipeline data coming in. And then of course there's data visualization at the end there. So, and that's all about helping understand, digest, look at what is going on with data. Now this is data analytics, more or less. There are very much so other paths that get much more into the background of it, right? There's like data warehousing. How do you store things? Data processing. How do you process it? Data security, right? That's a whole different framework. And so this is very general. I've got a general rule that we're going to use as our example, but I hope this just helps illustrate things. Now there is one step beyond that, which is data scientists here, which as you can see on the right-hand side, and I'll get to here in a second, but basically there's all sorts of different things that you can do and techniques as a data analyst inside your position. So there's all sorts of different techniques you can use. There's different ways you can sort data, different ways you can process data, all that good stuff. With that here, I'm going to move on here to the difference between a data analyst and a data scientist. So very similar, however, the portion that is different, and I'll bring my mouse over here so you can better see. Data analysts, right? You create a goal, you collect the data, you integrate, you manage it, you explore the data, and then you collaborate and you analyze, right? And that's a little bit of that last step, the collaboration and analysis is the visualization, right? pretty looking charts that are digestible and understandable, understanding the raw data and all that good stuff. Now, the data scientist gets a little bit more into the nitty gritty of like models, model development, model deployment. What is the framework of your database like, and goes a little bit more in depth. So very, very important, I think, for us to understand here, because we're going to use the word data science, or we're going to use the word scientist in our search later on, and I'll show you why. But I just want all of us to understand that, right, data analyst, there's a million options. It kind of starts at one point and it blossoms into a giant bouquet of options. So everybody take it with a little grain of salt, and understand your role in particular. Okay, everybody, I know we go through this typically during our master classes, but I think it's really important to review. Everybody, in a very simplified world, your role opens, you review the role, you denote key skills, then you go search, you post, you advertise, and then you outreach, right? And then you start to do those interviews, and then hopefully there's placement and next steps. I know that is super, super simplified, and I know everybody on this call is probably screaming at me like, great, awesome chart. Every single step takes weeks. Absolutely. So today we're going to focus on kind of reviewing the role, denoting key skills, and searching. That's the main section. Juan at the end has some very, very helpful things there to help bolster your search efforts that he's going to touch on, that are some new features even that are new to your Dice account sometime in the last 6 months or so. So everybody, please take a look if you're like, okay, maybe I wasn't finding exactly what I was looking for. Juan has extra items at the end. Okay. Everybody, when searching on Dice, there are 3 ways to search. There is IntelliSearch, which is an artificial intelligence. It's an AI. We've actually had it around for 4+ years. It's directly integrated into your platform. It's right there at the top. It's the first major box you see. IntelliSearch, you can copy and paste a job description or resume, put it into this box, and it will produce results from the database for you. So you can literally copy and paste the whole ugly job description you have with all the weird returns and paragraphs and some weird spacing sometimes. You can put that in there and it will understand what you're looking for and it will present you results. The second way to do a search is Boolean. Okay, go for it.
Sorry, Max, just a question, and I'm not sure if anybody in the audience has this, but when you're pasting into IntelliSearch, do you recommend to just post, copy and paste the whole job description, cut off certain sections? Like I know sometimes benefits are included. Talk a little bit more also about the work culture. Should those be omitted, or should they just copy and paste the whole thing?
Absolutely. So great question. Should you include benefits like 401k, all that stuff? You can. Our artificial intelligence is smart enough to know that even though you included a 401k match, and other financial benefits in there, it knows that you're not looking for a financial professional. It knows you're not looking for a financial advisor. That's how smart it is. I suggest omitting it just because I don't want any reason for it to pull up. And typically that 401k and the healthcare benefits and stuff like that, the dentistry stuff is always at the bottom. So I always omit it just because I don't want to include that. But it is smart enough, of course, to let that go. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, everybody, the second way to do a search is Boolean. Boolean is what we will be focusing on, and I'm going to go into this more, but it is that funky looking equation with the and, or, not, parentheses, quotation marks in there. Then the next thing, you can actually do a combined search. So this is where it gets super powerful. You can tell the search system, give the artificial intelligence a whole job description or your favorite resume. And you can say, find me somebody like that. And then you can come down to the Boolean and you're going to be like, okay, but you have to have SQL in the, like, somewhere in the profile. Like, you've got to have that. If I literally do not see that word in there, I can't show it to my hiring manager. That's when you want to use the combine. So it's a great option there. I'm going to move on here now to the job description. So everybody, I have the senior data analyst out of Houston, Texas. Responsibilities are to collect, clean, and interpret data sets. Okay, basically just sounds like what we just discussed, what a data analyst does. Now, of course, down there's those required skills with all those lovely, lovely acronyms and alphabet soup. We will go over how to search for those. And then, of course, we have those regular job descriptions actually telling you what's going on. Okay, everybody, building a Boolean. this is what we are going to get to today, is this type of Boolean. And if you're brand new to searching, if you're brand new to recruitment, I'm going to go through exactly that. And then I'm going to go through for everybody who's like, okay, looking for data analysts can be really, really tough because there are so many keywords. I've got a couple of suggestions for you, okay? So what is a Boolean, everybody? Boolean is a binary variable logic equation to search through databases by utilizing operators. Operators meaning and, or, and not. And so that's what you see up here, and, or, and we've got a not function, and binary meaning you either got it or you don't. And we'll go over how to manipulate that. Okay. So everybody, there's just 5 things you need to know about here: parentheses, and, or, not, and then quotation marks. Everybody, parentheses, if you aren't using parentheses in your Boolean, today's the day to start. Today's your day. Start using parentheses. Essentially, we're building out math equations. And so you want to separate things out from left to right. And then you can actually add on different sets of parentheses. And this will help denote different queries that you're typing in. The and function means you got to have this and you got to have that. So it's you got to have both. So everybody be a little careful about that. Sometimes on the job description, it's like you got to be, you have to have experience with X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Well, maybe you didn't need actually all of that. Maybe it was just X and Y you really needed. And so you need to read through the job description and find out what is crucial and what is not. The or function is going to be your best friend. The or function means you got this one or you got this one. You can have both. You can have just one, but you have to have at least one. It's really, really powerful because especially for some of these data analytics roles where there are, certain database frameworks or methodologies or programs that you're using, there's oftentimes multiple ways to write the same skill. And so everybody, we're going to use the or function a lot today. Then the not function. The not function omits keywords. Now, everybody, I'm going to show you how to use that on Dice. Keep in mind, it's going to be you do not need to always be using that because sometimes it's just going to shoot you in the foot. And I'll show you why. But it just simply goes, nope, you don't have it, not including you. The last thing, everybody, you need to know about are quotation marks. Use these very appropriately, and I'll show you how to use those. Everybody, quotation marks are there when you have punctuation or spacing. If you're looking for a key phrase, right? If you're looking for data model, you need to put quotation marks in front of either side. And I'll walk you through a little bit more of that, but honestly, it's anything outside of regular 26 letters on your keyboard, you should be using quotation marks around that. Okay, any questions before I proceed?
I don't see any in the chat, but please feel free to drop your questions on there and I'd be happy to post them live. I think Narendra might have a question, but we only received a period right now. So Narendra, if you have a question, you can post it in the chat.
Okay, I'll go through this. Hopefully a question comes through. Okay, everybody. Part of getting your role right, and I always do this, I have on my notepad right next to my desk is I always have needs, wants, and omits, right? I always do NWO, right? What is the most important thing we need? What are some of those nice to have skills, or maybe even some of those synonyms, and then anything that we need to delete out, right? Whether it's a competitor company, a key skill, which just inherently is not something we're looking for, anything like that, right? And yeah, okay. So everybody, from this job description, there's a couple of things, right? It repeatedly goes over requiring a lot of experience, right? Actually, and I don't know if it might be a little small for some of you, but it does say 10 plus years here. So that's going to be our senior, and then SQL is the most important language out of this job description. Then for the wants, we have ADLS, Databricks, Synapse, Azure, all those different types of words, and we'll walk through that a little bit more as well, but those are some of the nice ones that we have there. And then omits, let's just say for the sake of this, I tend to always use this, but let's just say we don't want anybody for some reason who has a fintech background or something like that. So let's just say no finance. So if you have the word finance in there, we're going to omit you. Everybody, I'm sure you're kind of going, okay, fine, but why are we doing it? Well, yes, I fully agree. You shouldn't be omitting anybody with finance in there. I think we're just going to use that as a demonstration for building the Boolean. Okay.
Hey, Max.
I'm going to go. Yeah.
Sorry, another question that I have, and similar to what you just mentioned. I know I bring this up in many of our master classes, but what is your recommendation as it relates to any like soft skills? So, including something like team player, leadership, like any of those. Do you recommend including those in the Boolean or not?
I do not recommend, great question. Yes, I do not recommend searching for soft skills. First of all, right, team player, if you're going to be searching for team player, that candidate, all those candidates need to have team player on their resume. Nobody says they're a team player, right? They say collaborated with a group of 20 people. Okay, well then maybe you're like, playing devil's advocate. Okay, well then I'll search with the word collaborate. Okay, well what if they didn't have the word collaborate, but they had they had team player. There's so many nuanced variables to the soft skills that it's not worth your time or effort to even begin to do that, right? I think a common one that used to be in tech job descriptions was like, um, IT guru, right? That was kind of a common one I remember seeing quite a few years ago. Do not look for that, because who has guru on their resume unless they most people don't. So by you searching by those terms, you are inherently narrowing the search down too much to where you're not going to find anybody. Does that answer your question there?
It does. Thank you.
Cool. Any questions from the chat?
Not that I can see any, but please feel free to pose any questions on there.
Awesome. Okay, well, I've gone ahead and I've zoomed in here. So everybody, welcome to your Dice login. If you have not logged in already, go ahead and do so. If you have any questions about how to log in, feel free to email support@dice.com or your client success partner or your account manager. We're all happy to help. But this is the first section when you get to log in. Now, everybody, for the sake of this, I'm just going to copy and paste the Boolean that we wanted to take a look at. I'm just going to put it immediately right here. And then I'm going to walk you through how I build this, okay? So everybody, when building out a Boolean, it is so imperative that it is written syntactically correct. Because if you mess up one little space, if I accidentally put a space over here like this, or if I put a space over here like this, or if I left out a parentheses here on the right-hand side, that would actually break the search and it would turn up all sorts of different candidates that you would not be looking for, right? It would be looking for people that have the letter O and the letter R in their resume, which hopefully most people are using those. So we do not want to break that up. So I say that it shouldn't scare you at all because I'm going to walk you through how to use all of it right now. And then also, just so you know, we actually have a full Boolean breakdown video that's under, I believe it's under 10 minutes. It fully spells all of this out for you that you can watch at any time through our support center that we'll send out after this as well. Okay, everybody, step one of writing any Boolean is starting with a parentheses. The parentheses, you want to use the left parentheses first, and then you're going to type in whatever you want inside of that parentheses grouping. So for this case, I'm going to type in SQL, and I'm just going to type that in. And then, because this is such an important thing, I'm going to close out with a right parentheses, and that's essentially telling the database that every single person we look at has to have SQL somewhere in their profile. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do space, and then I'm going to type in a new left parentheses. And I'll zoom in here so we can even see a little bit better. Because we are now going to add in those other key words, right? And we're going to take a look here. So ADLS, right? ADLS, that was one of our ones. And then we're going to use the OR function, right? So now you got to have ADLS, you got to have Databricks, or you could have Databricks, you could have Synapse, you could have Azure, you could have any combination, all four, three of them, two of them, whatever, it doesn't matter. You just got to have at least one. So I'm going to go ahead and type this in, Databricks or Synapse or Azure. And then I'm going to close out this grouping. Those are all a bunch of ORs in there. I'm going to close out with a right parentheses. Any questions before I keep going? Okay, now the next section. Okay.
Oh,
Go,
I was
chat.
saying not in the chat.
Max, I had one real quick.
Go for it. Yep.
If I've got a couple of skill sets that I want to put in there, like let's say Microsoft, like MS Automation or Power Apps, I need to put quotes around those multiple word components inside parentheses. Is that right?
Yep. And so is it Mark who's speaking?
Yes, sorry, that's me.
No, you're good. Yes. So, and I'm gonna get to that. Yeah. So everybody, Mark is going and he's like, right, in Power Apps. That's the data one. Okay. So yes, if you have anything with spacing or punctuation, and everybody notice here, senior with a period in there, that has a punctuation. So I'm putting quotes on either side. Same thing over here for Power Apps like this. Now, Mark, one thing that I would suggest is oftentimes whenever you see kind of like a conjunctive word like this, I don't even know if that's the right way to describe that. I always rip it apart and I always type it in like this. So two ways, Power Apps with a space or Power Apps no space. Now notice here on a second one, I don't have quotes around it because there's no need to put quotes because there's no space in the middle. Am I answering your question?
Yep, I think that, yeah, that makes sense. Kind of throw it both ways
Okay.
so it could catch it, right? But you have to write it separately in order to do so, right?
Was there another skill there that you said that you wanted me to type out for you or look at?
No, I think that's helpful. Just I guess I was just referring to, where they may have multiple 2 words or 3 words that go to a skill set, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And like
So,
Power
yeah, that's
BI, are
great.
you getting to that one too?
Yeah, that's really probably the most essential skill set for the actual search I'm on right now. So I have that where you put SQL, I put Power BI. Um, so yeah, but then the other kind of like nice to have skill sets or tools are some of those other Microsoft suites, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And Microsoft has like so many different ways to, yes. The only suggestion I have, Mark, is don't put in the word Microsoft because otherwise you're going to pull up anybody who has Microsoft in their profile, which could be me saying I'm proficient in Microsoft PowerPoint. So you don't want to do the word Microsoft. That's my only suggestion. Okay.
So leave that out or do MS or
You could do, yeah, .ms or .ms like that. But I'm going to be honest, just by searching for Power BI or Power Ups or kind of those variations, the more specific terms is going to help you way more than type it in Microsoft just on its own. Yeah. Does that?
perfect. Yep, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
And then
We did it. Yeah, we did have to go over a question. So Lindsay asked, does this pull from the profile or from the body of the resume?
this, oh, great question, Lindsay. This pulls from both, and that's what's so great about the sorry, my computer just updated, so it does the
We're
balloons. Okay.
celebrating there, Max.
Yes. Lindsay, it's such a great question. Yes. So when you do a Boolean, and that's what's so great. So everybody, when you look at a DICE candidate profile, the top portion is called the profile, and then there's the resume down below, and it pulls from both. So when you're typing in the Boolean SQL, it will look up and down and left and right. Anywhere do you have SQL, those 3 letters in order like that, it will look for it. So Lindsay, that's what's so great about the Boolean is it does search for both.
And then Dharmendra had a question. If we use SQL without the parentheses instead of with the parentheses as you have, Max, does it make any difference?
Okay, so great question. Technically, I could remove the parentheses like this. Now, everybody, I do not encourage you to do that for a couple reasons. One, it is syntactically correct. This will turn up the same results as this. And the reason being is it's just like the parentheses are just like there and they go whoosh away, like, right? It just tells the computer system, look for those 3 letters in that exact order. The reason why I suggest you always leaving in the parentheses is because you are immediately going to want to rip this apart at some point. And you're going to want to add in other ways to write that keyword. Just by having SQL in there, that's really, really narrow, right? There's other ways to write that, right? And the actual other way is structured query language. In order to get this, to have it with the or function in the middle, you need to have the parentheses on the outside. So I always encourage everybody, at Darbendra, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I always encourage you to use the parentheses because you should be ripping your Booleans apart left and right every time you search.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool. Great.
Great question.
Okay, everybody, cool. I'm gonna continue on here, everybody. So then I'm gonna add in another section of our Boolean, right? And let's add in that senior portion, right? That would seem to me one of the most important things. Now, as Juan already asked, he was like, what do you think about qualitative type words, right? And these are kind of inherently qualitative, right? And this is where it gets to that sticky point. Now, oftentimes people come to us, right, Juan and I, and they're like, I'm looking for somebody with 15 years of experience in this program. And we're like, okay, we can help look for some keywords that might denote that, but everybody keep in mind, this is not at all required, right? Like you should really be looking at the full resume and noticing people's years of experience. So with that here, I'm just going to type in senior, or because what if somebody typed in SR period? Because there's a period, I'm going to put that in quotes. And then I'm going to do or lead. If you were lead data analyst, that sounds pretty good to me. Or if you were head data analyst for a team or something like that, that sounds good to me. And I'm going to do that. Now, Christine just asked a question. Do quotes look at the letters that are caps or lowercase? Okay. Christine, great question. Capitalization does not matter at all in any way. You could actually retype this as like lead or head. I could type this in as lead or head. It doesn't matter. It's gonna know to check for both letter types, and so you don't need to worry about that. I simply type my Boolean with all caps like this, so it's just easier to read and see and then rip apart. Yeah. So I could do SQL in all lowercase like that, and that would be the same. Yeah. Cool. Okay, then lastly, and everybody just stay with me, we're going to add in that not function. So the not function is a little funky, everybody. You need to do space and space, new parentheses. So everybody, the not function has an inside parentheses and an outside parentheses. And I think of this like socks on the inside and shoes on the outside. If you do not have socks and shoes on, you cannot leave the apartment. You cannot leave your house, okay? So we got a shoe there. We need to put a sock on, right? So I'm going to type in NOT and I'm going to add in my left sock. So there we go. And then for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to say finance, right? We got that. And then I'm going to hit right parentheses for the right sock and then right parentheses for the right shoe. There we go. So the not function is basically just going like, okay, what do we have inside of here? And it's eating away at that. Okay, any questions before I hit the search button? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit search, everybody, and we're just going to see what happens. And I'm going to just zoom out here just a little bit just so we can see better with the search results. Okay, so everybody, we have about 185,000 plus candidates, which sounds great, but I'm sure nobody has the time in the world to get through all of that. So let's start to narrow down. So there's a couple of things that we can do. So first of all, last active on Dice. This is one of my favorite filters because I want to typically be looking to a warmer contact, a warmer piece of data, or a warmer lead, somebody who's actively looking for a job, right? So for this sake, because this is a more senior role, right? I'm gonna have this at 90 days just for the sake of demonstration, right? And I'm gonna hit search. And now one of the big key takeaways, everybody, is notice how I'm doing one filter or one change at a time. And that's one of the biggest takeaways is sometimes we come into the DICE database, which is a specialized database, specialized tech hub. And we type in every last little nitty gritty thing. We're like, yep, that's what I'm looking for. And then sometimes it might turn up nobody. Hang on, there's some nuance to the buttons, which might actually be indicating something elsewhere. And so I want you to just understand, do one filter at a time and just see how it goes. Because if you're looking for a tech role, we got it. Okay. So last active on Dice, I've just changed that down to 90 days. We have about 18,000, 17,000 candidates in the database for you. At this point, let's type in Houston, Texas, right? That was one of our criteria here. Everybody, a couple of things. You can actually adjust the distance there. So Houston is huge. So let's add in 100 miles. Keep in mind, you can add in everybody multiple cities and you can actually adjust that radius there. So you could do 25 miles or right, let's say we wanted to do College Station. I believe that's where UT is. So we could add that in and hopefully get some recent grads and just manipulate it that way. One other great feature here is you can actually add in time zones. So if I wanted to catch anybody in and out of Chicago, where Juan is, I could go ahead and click Central Time Zone or Eastern Time Zone or Pacific Time Zone, whatever you want, pick your poison. Okay. For this, let's just go ahead and hit search, right? And now we're down to about 783 candidates, right? At this point, let's just say, maybe that was not enough, right? Maybe we're not finding enough candidates or something like that. At this point, now we can change up our Boolean, right? And for this, I'm going to remove the not function, and I just want to see what happens, right? 783. And just because anybody had the word finance in their resume, we were able to find about 300 more candidates just by omitting one word. So everybody, I want you to keep that in mind, just how quickly you can adjust things and find more candidates. Now, one thing here that Mark kindly already pointed out with his Power BI, Power Bricks, Microsoft Power, is you can come up here is notice sometimes keywords that you're like, I think that can be written differently. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to type in data bricks, and we're just going to see if we catch anybody else who maybe wrote that slightly differently. And let's just see that 1008 to 1009. So we were able to find one more candidate. But everybody, if you're really looking for a really good senior candidate, maybe that next candidate was the one you were looking for. Okay. I do have one other thing here in that job description. There was a portion about some software in there, ERP software. So enterprise resource planning. So I've just copied and pasted that down here. And everybody, that's one of the best parts about Boolean is you can copy and paste them from system to system, from team member to team member. So if you don't already have a giant Word doc or sticky note on your laptop or your computer of all your favorite Booleans, I highly encourage you to do so. We will be sending out Dice's favorite Booleans, which is a massive chart of all our favorite Booleans. We'll be sending that out after this as well. But everybody, I just want to show you what's going to happen is as we search for this. So I'm going to go search with our ERP systems right there. And now we've brought it down to senior data engineer, seated data architect, lead BI applications, senior SAP HANA. These are now looking more and more for what we're looking for. But keep in mind, we've done only a couple things at the front, and then we've added on things at the end to help narrow down, but one by one, and noticing who we are seeing. Okay, any questions before I move on?
Yeah, so Lindsay asks, what does exclude third party in the search criteria mean?
Yes, okay. So third party here is basically Dice scrapes from almost 200 different online portals, databases, online systems, and we take that data and we combine it with our Dice profiles. So then that way, if you're looking at a candidate, you can also see that maybe they have like, oh, here we go. There we go. Maybe they have a LinkedIn. Great. We were actually able to find their LinkedIn and combine it here with their profile and pull that in here. Now, because I've selected last active on Dice being 90 days, right? They had to have been active on Dice for 90 days. We're just excluding, if you're just strictly third-party data, I'm just excluding you. That's what that is. Did I explain that right there? Yeah.
So, yep. And then Christine has a question. When do you need the quotes? Like, why does it say senior or, and then quotations SR dot? Could it be
Yes.
senior or, sorry. Could it be senior or senior
go.
without the
You're good.
quotes? Yeah.
Yes, so quotes are a little funny anytime you have spacing or punctuation. So for example, if you're looking for a .NET developer, that's how you need to search for them. If you search for just .NET without the quotes, it would literally look for anybody that has a period in their resume. So it would be crazier results, hopefully. So that's .NET. But if you're looking for a network engineer, right, you would go network space engineer like this, and that's how you would find that. If you just did network engineer, it would pull up, if I could spell, it would pull up anybody with engineer in their resume. So it would pull up a lot of people, right? Especially in the Dice database. And to answer your specific question there, Christine, right? You do need to put the SR period in the quotation marks, but the right or senior, like that. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Any other questions before we proceed? All right. Okay. Everybody, we do have something called talent alerts. So now that we've gone through all of this, right, we've taken the time, we've studied things, we've looked at, our searches and all that good stuff is you can come here and I'm just going to refresh my page. We have something called auto talent alerts here. So you can set up your saved searches and alerts and have emails directly sent to your inbox of any new candidates that match your search criteria on a daily or a weekly basis. Really, really powerful because that will save you so much time. So all I have to do here is create a new search. I'm going to call this SQL Houston, and I'm going to say 11-2023 just because I typically have a lot of these. I'm going to turn on my daily alerts. There we go. And then I'm going to hit save. Now, first of all, that save is searched, which I can go back to at any time. But then going forward, tomorrow morning, if any new candidates match that search criteria, I will be sent an email. I believe it's 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That email goes out and it lands directly in my inbox. Now, just to show you the saved searches, I'm going to come down here on the left-hand side, candidate activity, enabled alerts. Here you can see that SQL Houston for November. You can see that right here, and you can actually now see different candidates that are actually recently updating their resume or their profile that match the search criteria. So this should save you a ton of time. And one pro tip, you will actually be able to see who is now even online. So if they're online, you could click on their profile, go to their profile, and then immediately actually send them a Dice chat message, connect with them, email them. And because they're online, you can bet their response rate will probably be better than if they were not online. Cool.
Awesome. We do have two questions. One from Jahangir. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. What is the process of populating resumes for mentioned keywords? First resume is the most relevant one.
What is the process of populating resumes for mentioned keywords?
So I think maybe what he's asking is there a way to get like those that match closely higher in the search results?
Oh, okay. I think so. Well, sorry, do you maybe understand? I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Yeah, so and sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, I think that's what he's asking. Is just like, is there a way, so let's say somebody matches 4 out of the 5 skills for them to be higher, like number 1 on the search results? I don't believe there is a way to sort that, but Max, I'm not sure if I'm also mistaken here.
Okay, great question. Okay, I think I understand a little bit. So, in terms of like, yes, based on keywords and who is most relevant. So, ours Dice is built has a lot of AI behind it that helps sort, search, and find candidates for you. So right now, it's always based off of, and it's right here where my mouse is. It says sort based on relevance most. That's our back-end technology sorting things for you and telling you who we believe is probably best fit. Now, I'm going to be honest, I found this to be very accurate. However, of course, always, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. Do not forget to keep going to page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. And keep in mind, you can also extend the results per page to save you the anguish of having to scroll too much. But that's the best way to do it. Now, I don't know if you noticed there are other ways. You can search based off of resume last updated and last updated their profile. But it should be searching based off of relevancy more than anything. And I hope that answers your question there.
And thanks for clarifying that for me, Max. But yeah, Jahangir, if that wasn't the question, please let us know. And then John asked, what's the best option to search only Dice profiles? He does not want to see, they will not want to see any other social profiles.
Perfect. There's a couple of ways to do that. You want to come here to last active. That's honestly what I use, John. By simply typing in any number here, it just means you have to be active within X number of days, which That's great. That means they had to have been active, right? And that means updating their profile, adjusting their, email address, changing a phone number, applying to a job, anything like that. So I like that filter a lot because that just automatically does it. You can come down here to profile source, and that's where it goes dice only. Dice only is what you can immediately select as well. And that will just give you, right, the full dice profile, right, where the candidate does in fact have their full resume and all that good stuff. There is one other quick feature down here, which is resume last updated, right? And that's if you type in any number down here for the last number of days, that's also very similar to last active on Dice, but this is specific to that resume, which obviously is a very leading indicator for people looking for jobs, but it's not the only indicator, right? Especially if we're trying to pipeline here for 2024. I'm sure everybody on this call is thinking about it. Okay. John, I hope that answered your question. And one other thing, John, and then I'm going to hand this back over to Juan, is we do have a set of features rolling out where you will be able to save a default feature. John, you can right now, but it is being revamped. So you should be able to set your favorite defaults going forward, allowing you to always only be looking at Dice profiles. You can, of course, change it later, but you should be able to set a default for your search.
And then Christine asks, is there a way to only look at folks who have resumes?
Yep, same thing. You're going to want to do last active is a great option. Dice only is a great option. Resume last active is a great option. If you've got a profile on Dice, you've got a resume on your profile. So by turning on any of those three filters there on the left-hand side, that should indicate for you to have a full resume, Christine. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Back to you, Juan.
Okay, really quick though, I wanted to make sure you show this to everybody, just because this is one of the newer filters that we do have available. If you don't mind going back, Max. So in today's world, technology professionals are looking for different work styles. So whether it's hybrid, remote, or on-site. So that is actually a new filter that's available. Very similarly, it is for those individuals with a Dice profile. And so you can filter by desired work setting. So by default, it's selected to all three. But if you only want to look at those who are open to hybrid and on-site, you can uncheck remote so that your results are essentially only those individuals that match that desired work setting. And similarly, if you're looking for just remote folks, you can toggle between all three or keep all three on if you would prefer. And then it will give you that information. If somebody has chosen, let's say, hybrid and on-site, it's going to give you that information based on what you select there. So definitely encourage you to use that as well whenever you're looking for those tech professionals.
Perfect. Yep.
Awesome. All right. And now I will take it over really quickly here. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen. And you can just give me a thumbs up, Max. You do see it?
You're good.
Awesome. All right. So just want to cover a little bit about engagement with tech professionals. And so really your engagement with a lot of these tech professionals starts at the job description, right? That's the first time that they're looking at your job position, potentially looking at your company as well if they haven't previously. And so you want to definitely make sure that you start with a strong job description. What does that mean? Just some recommendations from our end is make sure that your job title and the description resonate with applicants. We know that sometimes companies have slightly different titles internally. Make sure that the title that's being posted for the job resonates with some technology professionals specifically, so that when they are searching, your job does come up within their search results. We also encourage you to include benefits and compensation in your information, just so that you give them a little bit of insight as to what they also get as part of them joining your organization. And then lastly here is just keep your job description to a maximum of 500 to 600 words. This is just best practice recommendation. A lot of tech professionals are looking at these jobs on their mobile devices. And so at a certain point, they do stop scrolling, right? And so generally that's what we recommend, of keeping that within that range, and that to make sure that they still stay engaged and they take a deep dive into that job description itself. The next recommendation here is just making sure that your application process is very easy. So if you have an ATS where they're able to upload their resume, make sure that essentially if it can parse that resume into their employment information, education history, any information that it can obtain from those fields from the resume. it's ideally that they would already be pre-populated. If you have them re-enter that information, it can discourage them from completing that application process because it just feels like it's very lengthy, very redundant for them. We understand also sometimes there are pre-screen questions, and we do also have the ability to ask some pre-screen questions under our easy apply method. Just make sure that you don't ask for any sensitive information and that there's not too many of those, because again, it can feel like a lengthy process and at that point discourage them. And then lastly, going back to the fact that many of these tech professionals can review these job descriptions on their phone, we encourage you to make sure that your application is also mobile first, because once they click on apply, if it directs them directly to your site, they will want to have that ability to be able to complete it directly from their phone as well. Once you force them to go from, let's say, phone to desktop, then that's definitely, that can definitely discourage them from completing that process as well. And then Vinod asked, can I integrate Dice job posts to my website to push job postings from Dice to my website? So you can definitely, depending on your ATS, Vinod, and I recommend you reach out to your account manager. You can definitely post from your ATS or from your website to our platform via some integrations. We do support a few ATS systems. So definitely encourage you to reach out to your account manager or client success partner and just see if we have that integration. That allows just for a very easy transition from jobs from your site over to Dice. From an application standpoint, we also do similarly support some easy apply integration. So again, depending on your ATS, we may be able to support where applications can very easily flow from Dice into your ATS. So hopefully that answered your question. I think I skipped a few bullet points here. Oh. Sorry, let me see. It's PowerPoint's acting up a little bit, but I'll kind of skip over branding for a second here. So the next recommendation really was branding and making sure that you showcase your brand. So there's a lot of different solutions, of course, of how you can show that. You definitely want to make sure that candidates are able to just understand your culture, understand, again, the benefits that they get from joining your organization. Whenever you have any media assets that lets them get a preview, such as videos, pictures, that is very helpful to really tell your story, because a lot of those candidates want to see what they can gain from joining your organization. And sometimes we understand that compensation is something that, of course, needs to be negotiated. So when they understand your benefits upfront, they may be more open to exploring some of those opportunities, understanding that if your benefits are very competitive, it could make up, right, for some of that differential within that salary expectation. So something that we also recommend you do whenever you are posting some of those job postings. The next one is just make sure that you also perfect your outreach message. So when you are engaging with candidates, lead with the subject line that really is going to stand out and it's going to make them want to read that message. It's a very simple as just, apply here for our job. It's not as strong, right? They may get many emails essentially inviting them to apply for various different roles. And so they may not be as interested whenever they're opening that email to read all the content that you provided them. Also, always personalize the message. We always recommend to avoid any sort of just copy and paste. Make sure you tailor it to that individual, because they also feel that you're taking the time to really take a look at their resume, understand them, and really understand essentially their work history. And so that may require you just to kind of take bits and pieces from their employment history and integrate those into your message. And I'll kind of share a sample message here in a few minutes. And then take any feedback from recent hires. So if you've engaged some of the recent hires and you've sent out messages to them, and that's how they came to join your organization, take feedback, see what did work. Maybe you can replicate that for similar positions, tweak as needed, but that's also another recommendation that we have here.
Hey, Juan, we got a question in from Lindsay. Is there not an option to see interactions as in the messages sent to candidates within the Dice portal? I see there is an interaction tab, but I only see who I interacted with. I do not see the messages I've sent. Am I overlooking this?
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think Lindsay, so a couple of things, messages, if you mean like emails sent, that should live in your interaction history. There should be an email section. And then, yeah, at the top left-hand corner, it's called emailed, and it should show you a list of all the people you've emailed. If it's Dice chat, like just an instant chat messenger with like the box that pops up at the right-hand corner, you will want to go to at the top right-hand corner of your login. There is a double chat, double bubble. And inside there is where you should be able to see the full interaction history of everyone you've chatted with. Yeah.
And I'll show specifically what Max is referring to here shortly, Lindsay. And so then the last recommendation is just closing the loop. So we understand that sometimes it doesn't work out with certain candidates. They're not a right fit, or again, couldn't come to an agreement with just some of the salary expectations there. Just make sure you give any feedback. And make sure you follow up with them as well. We've heard many professionals, and I apologize for the term, but being ghosted is something that is not very much appreciated. And so when that does happen to them, they're less likely to look at that organization because they are very discouraged from their experience, right? So if for some reason just something didn't work out, make sure they understand what they are within the application process. And again, any feedback that you can give them, they'll see it as valuable. They'll see that you are truly still interested in them. And so they may be more prone to come back when another opportunity does arise. And so with that, I'll go ahead and go into Dice here. And so I just brought up just a test profile here. So Lindsay, specific to your question, if you click here under the message center, you should also see your messages down here that are available at the bottom, but you can look at all the messages that you send. I sent this one during one of our previous master classes, but you should be able to see all of the interactions here with any of the tech professionals that you send any instant messages to. So if I just go back really quickly, we do offer various different ways that you can interact with tech professionals. And so one of them, again, being that messaging, it's right here, very easily accessible at the bottom. And you can essentially just go ahead and click on message, and then you can type your message that you want to send that individual. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy the email that I technically had drafted here to kind of show you all, and you'll be able to see it a little bit more in depth here shortly. And so from a candidate experience, which I do also have available here, when I am a tech professional, I will actually, if I'm on Dice at the moment here, I'll actually see that I have an unread message, and then I'll be able to very quickly go on it. As Max noted this earlier when he was showing you the safe searches, I can actually see here that Juan is online at this time. So I know that Juan is a recruiter, he's online, I can read his message, and I can very easily and quickly reply back, and then we can start having a conversation. So we definitely encourage you to be as active on there, check those messages. If those candidates are on their mobile device, we are going to be having some of those notifications enabled here shortly, where they'll be able to get those notifications automatically on their phone of a message or an email or any outreach that you've made out to them. You also have the ability to email. So you can email from your Dice email. That does keep your email private. It also keeps the candidate's email private. And we definitely encourage that just so you can keep all that communication within the platform. You, of course, can also use your own default email application. So if that's Outlook or Gmail, you can use that accordingly. And from here, you can copy anybody. If you want to change the reply to, you definitely can. If you have any saved templates, you definitely can use them from up here and just select the appropriate template. Please reach out to your Client Success partner. They can definitely help you with how to set some of those up. And so here, I'm just going to show you real quick. This is a email that I posted together. So specifically for Dice, we were on the Newsweek's 2023 Best Place to Work. So I noted that in the subject line, and then in my email message itself, I note, and I'm sorry, that cuts off a little bit here, but I also note that within that email, right? So Juan, in this case, knows a little bit more about just the company. I tailored this. I let him know specifically that, hey, I've been working with Max, who just got a promotion and they're CTO now. and let him know about his profile. I looked at his successes that he has on his resume, and we definitely would want to see how he can bring those to Dice. I give him some insight into the company, just some of the great things also that he could benefit from joining the company. And then I just say, hey, do you have time to reach out for a call? So again, very personalized. Juan, would definitely be more prone to engage with me at this point because he knows that I've taken some time to now take a look at his resume, but put his resume in front of potentially the hiring manager. In this case, I just use the CTO as an example, but it's a great way and it's a great communication with them. So from there, I can go ahead and click on send, and then it will send that directly to Juan, and which he will receive via his email. Another way that you can also engage with tech professionals is via Connect. So Connect here allows you to build a network. So when you click on Connect, you'll establish a connection with that tech professional. Once you've connected with them, you can actually see all of your connections by clicking here on the upper right corner under your connections, and then you can see his profile directly there. So from here, of course, you can remove if needed, but you've essentially established a connection. So if you ever need to go back to Juan's profile, you can do so directly via that connection section. And then the last method here that I just want to show you real quickly, because I know we're about time, is our invite to apply. So when you've, again, found that individual and you want to invite them specifically to a certain role, you can actually leverage invite to apply here. We do by default give you a standard message. You can click on edit and then you can tailor that message as needed. But from here, what you can do is you can essentially select that role that you've identified that Juan may be a good fit for. I'm not going to edit this message here specifically, but what I can do then is click on invite. And then when Juan receives that message on his phone or computer, wherever he's checking his email, he's actually going to be able to click on apply now directly, and he'll be taken directly to that job posting. So he doesn't have to go into Dice, search for your organization, or search for the job title specifically. He can actually find that specific job title, job description, look at it, and then of course, if interested, apply for it. So I know we're right up at time, but those are a few ways of communicating with tech professionals. The last one really being phone. If they do provide their phone information, you'll find that information here. If you have a voice over IP system, you can easily click on it, text them as well. We definitely recommend trying that as a method, or you can also call them directly. We do find that there are different styles that work best for different tech professionals, so we always recommend trying different methods of engaging with them. All right. And then so from here, I'll just kind of breeze through some of these slides here to just talk about the different methods. And you will get a copy of the recording. You'll also get the slides to just kind of talk about some of the interactions that I just mentioned here. And so please be on the lookout for that. We'll also share a copy of the presentation. As Max noted, we'll share a link to our Knowledge Center, which has our Boolean sheet, which allows you to just copy and paste based on the role. There's also a lot of videos that are very resourceful, and a lot of our recordings for our past master classes live on there. So if you haven't been able to attend some of them, you can definitely take a look there and check some of those out. We encourage you to join us as well for our upcoming master classes. Our December one will focus primarily on just a recap of everything that we've released in 2023. So we won't be focusing a lot on Booleans, but if anybody has a question, we'll of course take that live on the call. But it really will be more of just a recap of everything that Dice has released this year. And we'll start the new year with just mobile development for our January class. So also be on the lookout for that invite as well. And then the last part I also kind of want to mention here is just, we also encourage you to engage with your account manager and your classes partner around our virtual career events. It's a great way to really pipeline. We've actually covered a few master classes that focus on some of the events. So our last class prior to our healthcare class last month did focus on AI and machine learning. So we have an upcoming event in January. We actually have our full schedule available already for the first half. So if you are interested on that, please reach out again to your account manager or client success partner. They can definitely answer any questions that you might have. And so with that, I do again want to thank all of you. I know there's a question which I'll definitely answer for you here, but I want to also be respectful of everybody else's time. So you're more than welcome to stay on. We'll take more additional questions. Appreciate everybody that has joined us, and hopefully you found a lot of great information on today's presentation. Thank you all. And then Vinod, I know you mentioned any WhatsApp to have the two-way chat from within Dice. That's definitely a great recommendation, Vinod. I don't believe we have that just yet. You know, I'm not a legal expert, but I know there's a lot of restrictions with just text messaging and getting consent. But definitely something that I'm more than happy to bring up to our product team and see if that's something that we could look into. So thank you very much for sharing that. Of course. So Sarah's question, do you have to be connected to have the invite to apply button? No, you do not. So you can just source for them, and if you find them when you're sourcing for a specific role, you click on that invite to apply, and then you can invite them.
Thank you, everybody, so much for joining. Thank you.
Yes. And we'll stay on for one more minute. If anybody has any additional questions, we're happy to thank them. But again, thank you everybody that has joined in. Appreciate all the thank yous as well. Seems like everybody found today's session very beneficial. So thank you for that.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks,
Thank you,
Rajesh.
Harsh. All right. Well, I think with that, with no further questions, again, just a last thank you for everybody. We hope to see you at our session in December. So look out for that invite as well.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Max.
Thank you.